Hi everybody, Steve Cady here, and we are launching 6015 on Canvas. And thanks to everybody here. I meant to say this earlier, for your good feedback and comments and discussion we had last week in regard to the design and in our design conversation. That influenced a lot of kind of the modifications I made. I was doing some work over the weekend, and then today I spent a good bit of time throughout the day today and tonight getting everything in place for you all. And I'll be walking you through all of that and addressing your questions. We have a good group here and people are checking in, and I just went through talking about a few things about using Canvas Inbox for assignments and clarifications. This is our just general conversation space. Lisa talked about timing of assignments. I assume things are due by midnight that day. I have a work trip, so I won't have access at certain times. Well, they're available up to midnight that day. They're available days before. So you have, between now and that time, midnight, to turn it in. But the deadline is that night at midnight. So whenever I pick a day, I don't pick a time during the day. I just say it's due by that night. And I let Canvas set that time. So at least let me know if you're understanding that. So when you have a work trip, it shouldn't be an issue because you got multiple days to get it done and work on things and submit around your schedule. And then EJ is excited to learn about collaboration, how to start the mind map. That's a really good question in terms of sometimes it's hard to get started. And the first thing you do is you follow the steps in the assignment. So if we go into the assignment here, or if you go into the modules, you'll see that it's got steps, and then you've got resources. So when I allow this to collapse here, let me get this to collapse, come to the individual mind map. I threw these in. These are in the instructions. This video instructions and the writing the white paper video instructions. This is also a video instructions here. Make sure it's there. So you get that. These two are video instructions, but when you click here and go to the instructions, you have a variety of things provided for you in here. And my recommendation is you just walk through this and take it step by step and read through all of this, and then come on down and you got the recommended resources. And what I would encourage you to do is, you read through these items here, and over here, I would read through, if you really want to see, you got some tutorials, go through the tutorials here. This will really help you. And I put these first two in the module. And then, but I would look at everything here. And then you come in, it says, get started, heading step 1. And it says, read the article. And then it says, here's the change handbook. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to evaluate, plus 2 others, 7 and 8. And you pick them, and they're from the change handbook or another place that are collaborative methods or approaches. And you take, and then you begin the process of affinity diagramming. And here's some YouTube on doing that. When you go up here and look in your game storming and problem solving with design thinking, you'll see some ideas on how to do affinity diagramming. You'll actually see in game storming some very specific overview of that. And then you've got additionally some items here to help you with that. So you do your affinity diagram based on getting these methods. So you got to go through and read through this so you understand the process. That will bring you into your step 3, which is creating your mind map. Now, here's the thing. A mind map for me is loosely applied. The concept of a mind map is what I'm trying to get you to think about, and that is how you have core concepts, nodes, and things flowing off of them. The thing is for some of you, you may already know what a mind map is. My challenge to you is take your visualization techniques to another level. How do you conceptually represent the themes that you gathered through the affinity diagram into an instructive form that really takes it to the next higher level? I've had people move beyond a mind map. A mind map can be just fine to represent your themes. You can go a step further and you can create a metaphor and build in all the themes through the metaphor. You might also take it another level and think of something even more creative. So if you already are familiar with mind maps, my challenge to you is don't stop there. Find another way to creatively represent the themes from the very mechanistic affinity diagramming process. So affinity diagramming is a research-based tool. It's mechanistic in nature. It's a form of taking pieces of information, taking chunks of information, breaking it down into small pieces, taking those pieces, looking for themes across them, and then developing some type of a report based on your analysis of those patterns. And now what you want to do is, after you identify the patterns in the affinity diagram, you want to create some type of visual that really represents the essence of the methods using the 6 elements that you learned about in getting started. And that from there turns into writing your report. Now, if you go back up here to the tutorial, you'll see here instructions on an affinity diagram and to mind map, connecting affinity to mind map. And you'll see here instructions on writing the paper. And so those are, that'll help you. And then you'll see some draft review sessions. And I am likely to do something to try to create a experience similar to this. I've done it at times where I've had people review, and then we've had a review of the first or second draft before we go into the weekend. And I might even do that to try to help you all take it even further and deeper. So let me pause there. And Tony, reactions. Tony, do you have any reactions?
Sorry, I had to unmute.
Yeah.
Had to unmute.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, I think that helps. It's pretty clear, watching the videos to kind of guide what we're doing. There was a question on our page here about how the 6 or the 7 that you chose were chosen. Any particular reason for that?
Yeah, that's
appreciative inquiry and such.
Those 7 are what I would are the ones that have a couple things. One, they're the most well-established methods out there. 2, they represent a diversity of approaches to engaging people collaboratively. They have their approach is slightly different. They have large communities of practice, and they have a strong record of being used in profit, nonprofit, government, community settings. So those are the ones I want you to start with, because you can always break off. And the reason then I added Maestro is Maestro is a relatively new digital or online technology. And I really think that that's representing another way. I just got an email today about World Cafe, and they're doing a whole course on digital or online World Cafes. So there's a whole movement in that direction, and someone would likely use Maestro Conference very well, easily, to facilitate a World Cafe online. So I wanted that. And then I wanted you to pick 2 that you're curious about, so that you had some room to go after where your interests lie and to see what you might come up with, either from the Change Handbook or from other places.
Hey, Steve, there was also a clarification question requested regarding whether one mind map would be created for each different method, or is there a separate mind map per method?
That will be, that's from EJ. EJ, how familiar are you with mind mapping? How on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being an expert and 1 being never really saw it or done it before, and then 2 might be heard about it, but never done it. 1, I've never heard about it before this class. Where would you say you are? Okay. All right, good. So in the course of getting through the affinity diagram, you'll start having the core pieces you'll use to create the map. But essentially, a mind map is, and when you read a little bit more about mind mapping and the resources provided and so forth, you'll see mind map then leads to circles that have their own little nodes, and then circles that have nodes. So it's multiple ways of mapping a core piece of content with ribbons of or offshoot ideas or concepts related to that. So as you get familiar with it, you'll find that you're creating one mind map, but it's kind of a hierarchy of a main concept and sub-concepts and sub-sub-concepts, and the arms on the mind maps have different, you can use them for different things. So you'll learn a little bit more about it from the videos because they're all very straightforward, and you just kind of you'll want to kind of dive in. And here's a good thing. The way we're doing this assignment, EJ, is your first draft is all about doing the affinity diagram. And so I'm going to evaluate how well you do the introduction through the affinity diagram. That's next Monday. Then I'm going to evaluate how well you do on the second draft from the affinity diagram through the introduction affinity diagram through the rest of the paper as a draft. And I'm going to be evaluating you on that. Then what you're going to do, for both the first draft and second draft, you're going to peer evaluate 2 of your classmates, their papers, and you're going to evaluate what they did. And I'm going to also have an online session to discuss things. So by the time I see where you are, I see your paper, you'll get some feedback on the first draft, you'll see 2 other people's drafts, and you'll have gone through the second one. Then you're going to come to the first weekend residency, and we're going to do an experience where you're going to work in a team, and you're going to create a meta mind map or a meta assimilation, if you will, of a group of people's work into one. And by the time you're done with that, you'll have a very strong sense of how to do mind mapping and where it fits. Okay? So it's an iterative 2-3 loop learning kind of process. Great. So I'll pause here and check in with our 2 people, Rebecca and Tony. Do you have anything else you want to say right now?
Nothing
I'm good right now.
Okay. All right. So Joan is curious about why the 4 methods were chosen. I got that. Open space technology sort of freaks me out. I'd love for you to say a little bit more, Joan, about why it freaks you out. And I think you should pick that method as your method experience project because it freaks you out. Harrison Owen is a great friend of mine. To give you a sense of how powerful it is, when Nelson Mandela was released from prison, Desmond Tutu called Harrison, who happened to be in Africa, and asked him to facilitate the 350 people, 400 people that amassed in a room. And the question they were convening at the hotel is, what do we do now that Nelson is out? And Desmond had asked him to facilitate that. I have been down in South Africa many times doing workshops and stuff. They came to BGSU for our first conference called the Nexus for Change Conference, which was built on the Change Handbook. When you read Hope for Change, you'll see that was my beginning of building a whole field around the collaborative methods. And so you'll see sort of my hope for the future based on that, and I'm talking about Nexus there. People came to the conference. We had 350. We had to close it down because we had too many people from 25 plus countries come to BGSU to learn about collaborative methods that are in the Change Handbook. And people from South Africa were there, and they said, hey, you want to come and speak in South Africa? I went down, and I've been going almost every year since, going down there and speaking and working and all kinds of cool stuff. So open space is a very powerful and a very simple approach that's really cool. It's actually more structured than you realize. That's the thing, and I think you should pick it because I think you will learn how powerful it can be. Is it too late? It's already full. You already picked one. You can always change. I think you should not pick it and go and take your name off of it and pick something else. Oh, come on. You don't be shy, or don't be afraid. So, oh, I am not. She said you all are reading it, so we're having this odd, interesting me talking and her text writing to me.
Everybody's laughing, but you just can't hear it.
Okay,
I just want to let you know.
I appreciate that. Yeah, everybody can type LOL. So let me keep going here. So Joan, we'll keep chatting. Joan, I might have to just pull you into the conversation live. How about that? So Randy said, excited to get going. Really enjoyed the TED Talk from David Kelly. Great. Rebecca, got you here. Dense thinking content. That's interesting. Say more about dense thinking content.
To me, it's a lot like the design thinking, because I have I have a background in music composition, and so I relate this process as a creative process, which to me is a dense thinking content, where you think about it a lot and you visualize it a lot in your head, or staring at a blank space, and then things emerge and they appear and they kind of just jump out to you. So that's what I mean by dense thinking content.
Gotcha. Okay. Great. And Connie, yep. And as you know, Connie, take a look at those two videos. Connie, were you aware that there were two videos, one on connecting the affinity to the mind map and then writing the paper, the two videos that were there? Were you aware of those two? Okay. Yeah, that's going to be really important for all of you to thoroughly go through the assignment instructions. And, I gave you all a heads up to kind of get started, but I didn't expect you to dive in until tonight. So, Connie, it's not expected you to dive in before tonight. My thinking is now that you are aware that it's important for you to dive in and really go to all these links here and review all this information and so forth, because we'll be referring to this a lot during this class as well as later. And the 3 V's here, this is really, I'm going to be pushing more. The reason why I changed some of the assignments, particularly the one assignment that I pretty much almost got rid of, but brought it back in the way that I'm bringing it back, and I'll explain more, because I want you all to go deeper on the ability to take information and articulate it in an instructive and engaging fashion with an audience. And so it's more than a cool picture of something. It's more about creating charts and models and other types of infographics or other types of visual representations of content in 2x2 models and all kinds of different things, connecting the words to those visuals, to the way that you bring it viscerally out through giving examples and other ways of making something come to life for a reader. And we're going to really want you to really work on developing that skill set, those 3 V's, as a part of the class as well. So cool. And so let's see here. That's great, Connie. So I'll be curious what you think as you're reviewing through those videos and so forth. Happy to be reconnected with the cohort. Anxious to get assignment consistent due dates. You have working my normal 50, 60-hour weeks. Yep. Please be patient with me. Yeah. So you've got the layout of the class has got a bit of a rhythm to it, Tracy, and everything is laid out there for you in terms of due dates. And it's really take one and just kind of work one, then the next, and then the next, and then the next. And you can look ahead and start working on some things when you have time. So there's nothing going to hold you back from working ahead on different stuff, other than the group project work. But you can pretty well work ahead on most of the items as you have time. Okay, yep, take one at a time. Kristen, still not sure about starting the diagram. Is the diagram on something that we have gone going through, or work with our community, or just about the method itself? So that'll make more sense as you go through that. Yeah, so once you go through step 1 and really get into step 2, understanding the affinity, and watch the video, that will help, as well as reading in the resources about affinity diagramming. So go up to the resources. You'll see up in the resources, you'll see the mention of affinity diagram. You'll see also the instructions give you additional items around what are affinity diagrams here, as well as, like I said, up here in here, you'll see in the game storming different ways of evaluating data and information. And you can also see it in design thinking in the stories. You'll see some of the stories talking about how they help to take lots of information and as a group begin to find patterns and connections and themes. Let me go back here. Let's see. Kim, and okay. Excited to learn about the expectation assignment and best way to dive into the mind mapping. I hope I'm answering that, Kim. Let me know. I think I've addressed that, but let me know if there's another question you can build off of that in terms of getting started. Tony, okay, we talked a little bit about that. Tony, anything else you want to add?
Nope, other than that question about the group project, but I imagine you're getting to that.
Yeah. I want to really make sure people get the mind map and get that off our plate and so forth. And then, yeah, we'll jump into the other piece. You sure can, Brianna. You can use anything you want to build your mind map. And remember, I'm encouraging you to expand beyond the traditional concept of mind mapping. If you have done mind mapping or are familiar with that, I'd like you to think about what's the next level in which you can take the output from an affinity diagram and build a next level way of helping people to understand those patterns. And I had one person use a metaphor, root learning. If you go to root learning and look at how they do stuff, they use metaphors. There's this old adage that a picture is worth 1,000 words and a metaphor is worth 1,000 pictures. And if you can take a visual with a metaphor and then build the content into that, or something else that can be totally mind-blowing, that would be awesome. My main thing is to take the output from the affinity diagram and then create a visual that summarizes and brings those themes together in a way we can understand what you're seeing. And then Tori said, still excited to learn about the class and technology. Are you still now doing 2 group projects? Yep. And I'll explain why. After talking with you all, I left really not feeling good about taking that assignment totally away. I don't think you're going to, I think you need it to help make a practical case, bring your learning to life, and really get you all where you need to be. The main thing is I wanted to find a way to redesign it so that it is more of a compact, real-time experience, kind of in line with the flipped classroom concepts and so forth. So I think I figured it out. I'm going to try it out on you all. I'm open to modifying the parameters of it. I think I figured out how to make it work really well. It is definitely less work than it was last year and has been over the last 5 years. However, I'm working on how to make sure we don't lose the learning and focus the intensity of the experience in a different way. So hopefully I've figured that out. And so it's kind of like, that 10 pounds of something in a 5-pound bag or whatever that is, but doing it in a way that actually works. Wendy said, great, thank you. Looking forward to getting into details. Currently working through the setup and backup materials. Is AdCar ProSci an option we can use for one of our extra? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I think when you look at AdCar or ProSci, I'd be interested to see how you connect it with the other methods, how you see it similar and how you see it different. But yes, you can definitely use that. So that works well. And I'd look forward to seeing what you come up with that. And let's see here. Let's see. And Ray says, interested in diversifying. I'm not sure if I'm interested in diversifying my collaboration portfolio. Okay. Beyond WebEx. So, yeah, I got you. And Ray had a really good time last class. I really appreciated you speaking up. So if you're in the mood to speak up some more, I welcome you coming in live to chat as well. Beyond WebEx, and I think GoToMeeting is another similar version. I think Maestro Conference, and I think Zoom is another one. So, and there's also now Google Hangouts and Periscope, and my God, the stuff is just exploding on different ways to bring in technology and collaboration. Okay, great. So let's see here. So great. So I think we, yeah, thanks. And thanks for taking notes down here, everybody who's taking notes. Any high points, any important points, please make sure you put those there. So this is good. So Tony and Rebecca, please watch the conversation in here for me. Would you please? I'm going to switch over to Canvas and bring it up, and don't want to miss something. So I might come back and see what else has been added. And if somebody else is willing to chime in, just you can raise your hand and say, hey, you saw this theme, and I'll just bring you in for a moment, even if that works better for you. So let's move into this process here. So let me give you the big picture on Canvas. So first, I want to encourage you strongly, and I think I'm going to put some of this information into this class here. I haven't put it in, but I think I'm going to based on what I've seen, and that is a couple things. One are some tips and tricks on how to create your notification settings so that you're getting emails or texts or other kinds of things that can really keep you abreast of what's happening. So like if I post an announcement, you can literally set it so that it will email you or text you and say, hey, there was a XYZ. You can have a variety of ways of setting your notifications and so forth. I encourage you to do that and learn that, because that will connect you into the calendar, into the announcements, into the assignments, into the due dates. It will do it in a way that you can do it in a way that will work with the technology you have and how you like to be notified. And if you figure it out now, I think it'll make all your other programs, all your other courses you take, it'll help make them a lot smoother for you, or at least help you make sure you're in the loop on everything. That's one thing. Second thing is I'd encourage you to go to the Student Technology Assistance Center, and Kim Fleshman is there, and the STAC in the library. You can call them, chat with them. They are so good at hand-holding you through understanding how to use a variety of technologies, from Canvas all the way through to how to use the video editing technologies. They even have 3D printers in their office, in there. They have like, I think 2 or 3. So it's really all about how to use technology to help you in all these different collaborative platforms, and from Photoshop to video editing to screen capturing, all that kind of stuff. So you got them as a resource as well. So I encourage you to check them out. And if you talk to Kim Fleshman, she's a graduate of the program. So when you look at the overall layout, you can see here on the left, home, announcements. If I click on announcements, you can see here that I will post announcements periodically. And I should say frequently, probably is a better way of saying. So I'll be posting announcements on different things. I'll learn something. I'll want to share something with you. I'll see a theme. I'll want to remind you, whatever. I'll use announcements from now on, and I will not go into inbox and send an inbox. I will use announcements. So you want to make sure that you've got announcements set to be notifying you and it's getting you and letting you know what's going on. And that way we keep it all in one spot, and it makes it really efficient for the class. Then you've got modules, assignments, people, and grades. Now, modules and assignments are the same thing pretty much. All the assignments are reconfigured in there. Under assignments. I'm still working. I'm going to be splitting it up. So you'll really want to focus here on modules, because everything is in here. So you come in, you've got the syllabus, you got a schedule up here under course information, and that's what you all have received. Then you got a little blog I thought from Al Watts, who was in the program a few years ago. He came back after a long period of time of being away. Then I wanted to give you a case examples of really the core skill set. I mean, the intention is once you leave the class, you are well suited to doing collaborative 1 to 3 hour events and set up to begin to do blended 1 to 3 day events, and really able to see how you can do both of these, and also set you up through the library for starting to think about what is it you want to do when you graduate. You're getting the degree to help you do something. You're not getting it to help you stay where you are. You're getting it to help you get promoted, help you get a new job, help you make a career transition. This degree, when it's in your pocket and done, what is it you hope to do that next year, that next 18 months? And what do you want the degree to help you do? I often think of what is your dream next step and your dream place you want to be. So the ideal place you'd love to be and your dream next step. That's what the individual library gets at. That's what these two things set the stage for. These two events set the stage for practical applications. And then the library, which I'll talk about, sets you up for really focusing how you're going to work within the context of collaborative experiences and collaborative projects or initiatives that you're working on. And then from there, we got the class recordings, and you don't see some of the stuff that's grayed out because that's all from last year, but essentially you should see right now the video recording from last week as well as the video from tonight will be added here, and you see the notes from tonight. And then I'll be putting, if we have more, I'll be putting stuff under Residency 1, between Residency, Residency 2, and post-Residency. So any on-class recordings and sessions, I'll be posting in here. Then we come to the assignments. We talked about that. So when we go to the syllabus, let me go back here to syllabus, we got this right here. And let me pause and check in with Rebecca and Tony. Is there anything you all want to add from what you're seeing in the chat room or any reactions?
No additional questions. A few checking, just still excitement. Nothing substantially new.
Okay. Tony, any reactions or comments?
Nothing here, although I see a note from Ray that he might be trying to unmute himself.
Okay, let me do that. And Wendy, anything you want to add? Okay. And Ray, you are live.
Apparently I am. Thank you.
So did you have a comment or reaction or question?
Oh, it was, I mean, we kind of moved on, but just going back to, and it was building, I think, a little bit on what Rebecca said when I got in here. There's a wealth of information you provided. I think, at least for me, it's still taking it all in because I think we all, want to go into this at a kind of a high level functional standpoint, but we're still really absorbing what it is we're doing. I guess we're getting to the point of what we're trying to draw out, but it's coming together more. The material you put out there is helpful. I think it's still the process of wrapping our minds around it and looking at dates.
Yep, good, okay. And we've got everything laid out, date-wise in here, and we also have it, in Canvas in the modules, because when you go into here in the mind map, you can see here, you got the instructions, you got up here, then you've got, May 2nd, May 9th, May 23rd, and May 30th. And so you've got the steps. And the first one is your first draft. And what I want you to do here, I want to be real clear, is that you're completing the assignment up through the affinity diagram. So you can do more than that, but I'm saying focus on the front end, the introduction, the cover page, all the way through to the affinity diagram piece, and stop at that point. So when I click on the instructions here, the mind map, let me go over here to this so you can see it. Cover page, executive summary, table of contents should be done. Body of paper, introduction, process, affinity diagram. So for the first draft, I want you to go this far. Then what you'll do is you will submit that draft here on the 2nd, by the 2nd, I should say. You can do it that day or the day before, but it has to be done by that day, the 2nd. As soon as that's done, you come in the next day after the 2nd, on the 3rd, and you are going to be assigned 2 people, and you're going to review their document. And you're going to get reviewed by 2 people. So everybody in the class will get reviewed by 2 people, and everybody will review 2 people. And that's done by the 4th. So you get it on the 3rd, and then give feedback to 2 people by the 4th. Then you've got your second draft here, which what I want you to do is to make sure you go through and start make this better, make the front end better, the front end stuff, make all this, improve all this, and then do this here. The mind map, application, conclusion, and references. And what I'd like you to do is you'll go deeper. So you'll have your application example, but you'll go deeper after you get some more feedback on it from the weekend. You'll probably take these and answer these questions initially, and then probably add to them after the residency weekend. And then you get your references. So what I want you by the second weekend, and you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to change it. And you all, here's what I want to do. I think what I'd like to do, and I'm curious, I'll ask Tony and so forth. And the reason I'm doing this is because by changing the other assignment, which is a twist, I'm wanting you to go deeper. So I'm giving you 2 drafts, and I'm giving you a chance to go deeper and have some time to really dig into this. So I'm expecting you to just give it that extra time and energy. But what I'm thinking is maybe you go a little bit further, but maybe not all the way. Maybe you stop at application, and then your final is here. So I didn't ask you all this the other night because I had been kind of getting you all just in on that. So I tell you what, tell me, everybody out there, your first for sure is going to be all the way through affinity diagram. Second draft can be the mind map and application, and then third draft can be all of it through the conclusion and the conclusion. I'm willing for it to be then through the mind map, and then the final has the application and conclusion and references. And you do need to keep the references always in there. So I don't want you all to do those and not have those there for anything. You should always be built. The references should get bigger and bigger. So in the discussion, I'm willing to change that. My intention was first half and then the second, and then the next second draft is the whole thing. I'm willing to pull that back a little bit, and I'll go. Tony, what are your thoughts on that? And then for you, the rest of you, could you tell me what you think in here? Give me your thoughts in here.
Well, it's hard to really say. I think that probably sounds better, but I imagine, that's an individual choice. For me, sure, yeah, that makes sense to give us 3 drafts to really dig into it.
Well, it's 2 drafts. You'll still do the final. The final will include
right.
The application and conclusion section, as opposed to. And what I want you to do is really focus on articulating the mind map really well. And so it makes sense to me to do that. And I'm just checking to see if I'm not thinking about something. And if you all are willing for the first draft to be through the affinity diagram, then do a really bang up job on that mind map. You can begin looking at these other 2 pieces, but I'll grade through this for the second draft. And I'll be actually looking at everything up through the mind map for the second draft. For the first draft, I'll look at everything up through the affinity diagram. So I'm looking at all of it for the first 2 drafts. It's just I'm adding one more big chunk for the second draft, then looking at it all again. And then for the final, get these last 2 pieces done. So that's kind of what I'm thinking that will work actually well. Rebecca, what do you think?
Well, if for everybody who's worked in a group with me, they know that I love many drafts because my opinion is the more drafts, the more time the ideas have to emerge. So to me, that makes sense. We do have a comment that's being written here by Wendy at the moment. Dr. Wong mentioned to us that we have a wide range of experiences, and as a whole, we are servant leaders who care a great deal for each other. For this reason, I appreciate having the ability to dig deeper rather than skimming. So, got another vote for the digging deeper.
Okay.
Oh, and we've got some more up here too.
We've got a comment from Connie too. think having 3 drafts allows us to get feedback, as we are going to make sure that we are truly understanding and allow us to go deeper into the concepts.
Okay. So you can see what here, it's up here, it's the second draft, complete through mind map. So I want to be real certain that you complete from cover page through mind map for the second draft. Make sure you really are clear about this, that there's no confusion. And then if we go back and you go in here, that you and Ray, did you want to add anything to what I'm doing?
I think, yeah, it's from a standpoint of, again, the understanding, and it was captured in the comments, that just the repetition of going back through it, I think will reinforce, especially if we're going to go into a strong conclusion at a high level. I think we'll need time to actually look at the affinity diagram linked to the mind map to really make sure we captured what we wanted to say.
Okay, right. So you see what I've done. So first draft, complete from cover through affinity diagram, and then for the second draft, complete from the cover through the mind map. So you're repeating, you're kind of going deeper on the front end and then diving into the mind map, and then on the final, it's going to be the full with all the rest of the outline done. So I make sure I'm clear about that. Am I being clear, Tony?
Yes, you are.
Okay, all right.
Was that a Tommy or a?
What's that?
There is one concern that's been raised, and it's a valid concern, and that's just regarding the being able to successfully complete that first draft by next week, given just the proximity to the due date. Mm-hmm. Could you talk a little bit about maybe your grading approach or how you're viewing these drafts over time to alleviate that concern?
So that's a tough one. The demand, people have stepped up historically and have done the full-on paper in the same amount of time, and it's a lot of work. My expectation is going to be, and I'm going to grade, the rubric I use is going to be around complete, professional, and thoughtful. That is, did you answer and address everything that was outlined here? So if I go into this, so I'm going to be looking at, first check is going to be, did you do this? Did you do an executive summary? Did you do a table of contents? Did you address each of these things? Did you address this? And did you address this? And did you provide the appropriate visuals to support this, as well as a good written description and providing examples? So that's those 3 V's kind of thing. And I'll be evaluating if it's done well. A complete, professional, being written well, and thoughtful, that you explain yourself well. And I'm not going to expect it to be as thoughtful as I would expect it at the on the next pass, but I do expect, or what I should say is, thoughtful really gets at how, if you're explaining things. So one sentence on something, it becomes real obvious that it's hard for me to understand what you're saying. So thoughtful means I understand what you're seeing, what you're saying, and describing, and those kinds of things. So I will be looking at those 3 things here. Then when we get to the next piece, I'll do complete, professional, and thoughtful. Then when we get to the end, I will add 2 additional rubric dimensions, and that's mastery and outstanding. I'll be looking, are you actually applying affinity diagramming appropriately? Are you applying the 6 dimensions of 6 design elements appropriately? Do you understand the difference between a purpose, system, journey, values, and evidence, and model? Do you understand the difference based on how you analyzed it? That's mastery. And outstanding, did you do something that's a best practice, and the frequency of that in your paper? So I'm looking for you to have best practices in your paper. That will be for the final. So I do ramp it up the first two, I'm really looking at complete, professional, and thoughtful. For the final, I'm looking for complete, professional, thoughtful, and then I'm looking for mastery and outstanding. These rubrics, I'm going in and putting them in. So when you go into the course modules here, and you go into mind map submission right here, and you click on the first submission right here, I give you some instructions here just on how to submit, how to conduct a peer review, and how to read the peer reviews, and kind of a video overview of the process and so forth. So you get some stuff here. I'm going to take this point, that 25 points there, I'm going to take that out because I'm focusing on the rubric and waiting because Canvas allows me. So some of the stuff I'm still converting over from Blackboard days and from other things. But when you scroll down here, you can see complete, professional, and thoughtful. And I grade you in here if it's clearly correct, partially correct, partially incorrect, and clearly incorrect. You can read a full description right here of what I call complete. You can click on professional, you can see that there, and then you can see thoughtful here. Okay. Ray, what are your reactions to this? What do you like about this, and what don't you?
So I think it kind of reinforces what you said earlier, right? The point of this course is we'll be able to take information in a short time, kind of, articulate in a thoughtful manner what we've absorbed. So I see where this, in a sense, kind of ties into that expectation you laid out. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't have the same anxiety. It's like, okay, from now to next Monday, moving past the absorption standpoint being a simulator. So I like to take it all in and then really dive and attack. So just moving, kind of moving my pace forward. I'm guessing that might be the case for some of the others too.
I can, and I totally get that, totally. And it's, I wish I could just give you all grants to step and the authority to be able to step away from stuff and focus just on this and have other stuff. And I know you're juggling professional responsibilities, personal responsibilities in the program. And, there is no easy answer for me on that because the integrity of a graduate degree from BGSU really is predicated on this level of work and time spent on it. And there are state-regulated time, 2 hours for every in-class hour, and a class is worth about 80 to 120. So you got about 120 hours of work, and then when you take a blended class and you have to divide up those hours and so forth, it's just, it really gets daunting. So I try to find the best ways to make it work, make it amenable, and give you time to work into your schedule. But I know it's taking a lot out of your hide. I know you all are having to really give up a lot to get this done, and I admire and appreciate that. And I can only say that I've been there too, because I had to get to getting my PhD, and I had to go through all the hoops too to get there, and I know how hard that is. So, but the big thing is I want you to know that I'm there for you. So what I mean by that is you may be stuck or you may need some help. Just reach out to me and let me know. If I can spend a little time with you to help you figure out how to do it quicker or more efficiently, or I can give you feedback or whatever, I want you to feel free to reach out to me because that's what I'm here for. And I actually really enjoy it. It's not a job. It's actually really great to work with you on that level and to help you figure stuff out. I'll stop there. Any other points from you three that are all live on here?
There are a couple of questions that have popped up.
Okay. Yeah.
They're kind of random, so I'll just go in the order I saw them. The first question was, do we need to purchase the Maestro conference tool, or is that going to be accessible to us without having to purchase the tool?
You can get a trial of Maestro Conference, and you can do I think a 30-day trial. And to investigate Maestro Conference, you can go online and watch. You don't have to have a quote a license or have or have a copy of it, or my brain is a little slow right now. You don't have to buy it in order to see what it is and what it does and evaluate it. Similar to the ones in the Change Handbook, you're kind of evaluating how it's presented, the description of it, and those kinds of things. But you should be able to get a 30-day trial. I'm like 99.9% certain. What else?
We also have, can our mind map be on any topic? And is the goal to understand the methods and apply them, or is it a specific topic to do the mind map on?
It is, when you come back in here to the assignment here, come up here, right here, the purpose is to uncover the patterns and the methods in order to develop your foundational understanding of the principles for facilitating collaborative events. And you'll build your skills and so forth around, for organized, diverse concepts in a coherent framework using the tools. The real key here is to uncover, you'll see it repeated, uncover the common unique characteristics of the methods that are described in the Change Handbook, plus the Maestro and the extra one that you add. That's the intention there. And you really are going to, what you want to do is you also want to apply the 6 design elements. These 6 design elements that are here are system, purpose, journey, evidence, and values, and model. Evidence, values, and model. Those are described in the article here and in this article here. And in this article here, it adds in the 6th, which is model and how it's described. These 6 design elements, when used and applied to the methods, what you're going to find is they accelerate your competencies around these methods and understanding these methods and building your method mastery. The 6 design elements came out of you all as students over the last 20 years, and particularly in the early stages, in the first 10 years, and analyzing the methods and looking for patterns. We didn't have a lens. We just looked for patterns. And then eventually these buckets came out, and these buckets really helped people. Once somebody did that, it was very interesting. We'd spend a whole weekend just analyzing methods and patterns. And then we found that these buckets, these design elements, and I asked people to look for the themes within each of the design elements across the methods. And when people showed up to the first weekend, we had already exceeded all the learning outcomes for that whole weekend, such that we had to reinvent the weekend experience. It just accelerates your learning very, very fast. Next question. Rebecca, anything else?
There's one last one I see here, and if I missed one, somebody please highlight your text in a different color so we can make sure we don't miss anything else. But it is, how are we supposed to finish a table of contents and executive summary if the paper isn't complete for draft 1 and 2?
Because you complete the table of contents for what you've completed. You also can see, and here I've given you the complete outline. So you have the table of contents. I'm pretty much giving it to you because it's all right here. So broadly speaking, you've got your main elements of your table of contents here. And then you've got your sub-elements of your table of contents. So you may not have page numbers, but on your first one, you're going to have, the detail of your table of contents for the first 3, and then you'll have the base level stuff. Your executive summary will be an executive summary of what you've completed thus far, and then you can add more to it as you go. So that's what I would say do around that. And if that answers your question, let me know, and if it doesn't, ask me another question to help me make sure I address it. Rebecca, anything else?
Nothing else that I see that's come up. Nope. That's it.
I think you got it all, Rebecca.
Okay, cool. And all right, so good questions, everybody out there. Really good questions. I think we're taking this this assignment and really getting into the nitty-gritty of it, and talking about some very important aspects of the assignment. So let me go into, so we talked about the method mind map, and we got here, you got your draft and final, then you've got the personal OD&C library, which you've got those instructions, and that when you look at the schedule, you can begin thinking ahead on that and start. And I think you can wait and really focus on the mind map, this portion here, and then begin to get into that. But I think it's good. I want you to read the instructions so that we can begin to, on the first residency weekend here, I'm going to make sure you have time to begin thinking about and addressing this. So I'm going to expect that you have gone through the assignment and really come ready to wrestle with some of the issues and in the personal DNC library, but just as a starting point. Not any work will be expected for you to get done. It's just getting you, I guess the main work would be to really understand read through the instructions and come prepared to ask questions like we're doing tonight with the mind map. So come to the first residency that way. That would be best there. So then you can look over here on you got the method experience, and then you've got here, what I did is I kind of highlighted things a certain way so you can see also, we got during the second residency, we're going to complete the blend design all in that weekend. We're going to get that particular assignment done all there. And what I'm looking at here is what you can see is the method team experiences here. And this is following traditionally what we've done. I've just improved some of the instructions and a few things on that. And then I'm making it 5% because I'm making it 5% because we're going to learn how best to have this experience on the second residency weekend.
No, Dad can sit down and go through that.
And I can hear you talking, so I'm talking over you, so in case you don't want to hear us to hear you. So you'll be able to, you can now, and I'm going to really want you to focus on this front end stuff, and I'm going to take and clean this up. I wanted to talk with you a little bit about this, but the instructions are the full-on proposal. I'm going to tweak it down to just the design for you to do, and we'll do it live. You'll walk in, and by the time we walk out that residency on residency 2, you will have submitted, you'll have started and completed and submitted this particular assignment as a team on that second residency. How it works is you are going to focus on developing your competency, your mastery around a method. And when you go into the schedule here, you can see over here on the right, you can see right here that you can pick your method experience there. And you have, as you're reviewing through the methods, I didn't want you jumping in and getting too far ahead of yourself, but a lot of you already have. I'm hoping that you're picking, based on what you've read. So open space, appreciative inquiry, World Cafe is incredibly popular, and the collaborative arts and supportive methods are incredibly popular and hot right now. So any one of these 4 is going to be great for you. And I'm hoping that you're not picking, I'm hoping you're picking what you're drawn to or what will help you grow and stretch, and that you are avoiding picking based on who you want to work with. That's really key. This is about you building your toolkit. And so I want to encourage you to do that, and you can always go in and change this if you need to. So go back to here. So in here, you've got the group project, and what we're going to do is we're going to use what I call, it's the flipped classroom approach. The flipped classroom approach is really situation-based learning and active learning and cooperative learning all woven together, and gamification all woven together into a course experience. And the real differentiator in flipped classroom is that you're doing pre-work, you're reading your book, you're reading your materials, you're coming into class, and you're working on your homework and the projects in class. And so we're going to spend the first weekend getting you up to speed and working on the individual mind map and your group method experience. You're going to be spending much of the weekend working on these 2 items. We're going to spend some time on the individual project here on the personal OD&C library. We'll spend some time on that in that first weekend. Not a lot, but we will do some things to get the stage set for you, because you'll be doing a draft and bringing that into the second residency. So I want to make sure you're set up for that. And we're going to do this group blended event during the weekend. So here's what I want to pitch to you all. And I'm looking at time. I want to finish at 10:30. This is really important. So I'm going to be asking you for a vote, so to speak. So you learn a method and you master it. One of the keys in this work is method mastery, blend mastery, and invention mastery. You'll see that in the change handbook. It's outlined there. That's a model that I use, and I'll be emphasizing that as we go. We right now are focusing on method mastery and blend mastery. In 6060 down the road, you'll be working on blend mastery to invention mastery on large long-term change initiatives. Now, coming back to this class, you are going to work on this assignment here, the group project method experience, or this method experience project. This here is focused on you mastering a method. I will give you all the instructions you need during the weekend, the first weekend, so that you are working on it in your method team during that weekend, setting you up to create a method experience that facilitates our learning in the second residency. And I'll explain more about that in the first residency. Now with that, when you get to the second residency, here's the key. You are going to then pitch a design for a blended 1 to 3 day event. What will happen is, those of you that are on the different teams here, and again, this will make sense as we go, so I know some of you may be still trying to follow this, but essentially, this is a group of people that are going to master open space. This group is going to master appreciative inquiry. This group is going to master World Cafe. And this group is going to master the supportive, collaborative arts methods. Then what we're going to do is create teams that will be basically made up of one person from each of these on the blend team, so that when you work on that weekend, you're going to provide a solution that weaves together, blends together, open space, appreciative inquiry, World Cafe, and the supportive methods, the collaborative arts methods, into one 2-day designed experience. You're going to do that one of two options, and this is where the question comes in. So listen up if you're not. Would you like to, you have two options. Option one, pick somebody from the class who has an important project where they want to bring multiple stakeholders together in their organization or in their community or in their church, or wherever it might be, but in an organization that they're connected to. They want to bring people together from multiple stakeholder groups over 2 to 3 days to address a very important question, need, or possibility. A problem or a possibility. We can do that. We'll pick one, and the requirement will be that that organization's leader and 2 of the other people from that organization, it would be ideal if it was 4 people in total, can come Friday and Saturday of our second residency. If we don't do that, the second option is I've got a simulation based on a real life experience in which the people will come in and they will reenact by playing the role, and you will design for them a strategy summit for them. So you got one of two options: a live case simulation, or 2, actually putting a design together for somebody from your from an organization related to your class. So could you all tell me what you all are thinking you would like to do in the notes in here? And I'm going to ask, and we can actually figure this out by the second weekend. I'd love to have an idea of where you're leaning, and that way we can work towards maybe identifying that by the first residency, so you would know a little bit more, but we've got some time on this. So could you all type your thoughts in here? Would you rather do one of your own an organization that one of you are connected to, so an organization that a student is connected to, or a live simulation based on a past experience with the people from that experience. So a simulation based case or a real situation connected to one of the students.
And Steve, just to clarify, are you saying that it would be a single live scenario as opposed to separate group live scenarios? So it's a single case that the
Yep.
class would be
Yep.
reviewing, correct?
Yep. In both cases, it's a single situation. In one, it's connected to the students. It's a situation that one of the students is facing, and they want to bring it to the class and have the class consult, so to speak, for that, or work on that design. So that's one situation, and everybody will work on that, or use this live case simulation, based on something that's already happened, and have people come in and reenact that, and you all work with them to create the solution. Now, here's the interesting thing. In one, the benefit is in the student live experience or the case simulation experience, and the student live experience, you're helping one of the students, their organization, and you're having some people come in, and we've got to get all that organized. So we've got to make sure that we can get 4 people from that organization to come in, and then we create that experience with them, and we're going to do it in a highly accelerated fashion. The flip side, on the simulation, the case simulation, I'll call that the case simulation. In that one, you're getting a real scenario, real people, and you're going through the experience of pitching it to them, that design to them. You're getting that experience of pitching that design to them, and you're going to get to see the real design afterwards and compare your designs to the design that actually really happened, and get a debrief around that. So you get the rest of the story. So those are the sort of the benefits of the two. Tony, what would you pick and why?
Well, I was done that I'd pick a simulation because of the stress for all of. I was thinking on a personal basis, picking a real case from work or an organization would be tough, and the simulation, is a well-designed experiment for our class. But it appears that we have a split down almost down the middle, but with many citing for a live case. So I think that's great.
Okay. And the other thing, Tony, is not each of you don't have to come up with one. We're going to pick one.
Right.
One from the class. So we just got to find. It may be decided for us because we need to find one person from the class who can get a leader plus 3 others from that organization willing to come in and have us provide them a design for a large-scale change summit or event that's going to be 2 to 3 days in design. Most of them tend to be 2 days, but giving a solution for them, it's kind of hard. It might be hard to find them, so we may have to do the simulation as for the case-based simulation as opposed to the real live situation. So, but Rebecca, what would you pick?
Well, I prefer the live situation if, an interesting enough scenario could be found. And I happen to have one if there's a budget for flying people from Seattle to Bowling Green. I kind of doubt that, though. But I do prefer the live scenario if we can have that, because you have the real-time, as it's happening, learning, and you can ask questions and, get the consideration as you would in a live scenario if you were doing it yourself. So I think it's more true to life for professional development.
Yeah, I would say that both are very rich because they're both real. One is real that gets reenacted for you by people, and you get to see what happened. And I've done that, and that works great. And then the other one, I've done the other one too, and it's very real and rich. It gets a little unpredictable a little bit because you're not sure what's going to happen with the folks. So, but it's still very rich as well. It's a little bit more messy, the real situation one, than the case-based simulation. It's just because it's a little harder to control, like Tony was saying. But they both are rich, and they both can be really great. And it can be a series of, Adrian's saying, can it be a series of events? It can be. Think of it as, a series of events that, if you have a series of events, it's almost like spreading the days over a period of time. And it doesn't have to be 3 days. I think it typically tends to be 2-day events. Sometimes the day occurs on one day, and the second day occurs on another day. I've had a bunch of different designs, and there's a bunch of different ways it can work. So it can be any of that. And that's what will be up to you all to decide when you're working on it, will be to make that suggestion. The key is that it's going to be more than 3 hours. It's 1 to 3 days, and it can be split up however you want. And you've got that creativity, and that's what you want. You got to figure out how to do that over, address their needs, their purpose and outcomes, and weave together these 4 methods into your solution using the DVFS model, which I'll talk more with you about as we get into the class, which is the change formula, which is a part of the resources for this assignment. You'll see that in the instructions when you go there. So, Ray, what are your thoughts?
I'm leaning towards the live case one, just from the standpoint of already just what we've learned about the richness of where we're all working and coming from. There's some great companies and organizations. Just in the projects already, I've learned a lot. The other part of it too is just kind of the basic psychology of it. The one that makes me feel a little bit uneasy probably is the most opportunity for growth and to really challenge myself. And I honestly believe in the cohort that we can handle a live situation.
Okay. So good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put out there, and Tony, you're looking at is the consensus to go one way or the other, or is it still split?
I think we might be leaning more towards a real life situation.
Okay. So this is what we're going to do. We got one or the other. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put out to you all a little mini RFP that you all can take to your organization, and you'll need to send it in. I'll just set up some way of sending it in so that we can, as a class, on the second weekend, decide what we want to do. On the first residency, I'm sorry. On the first residency, I'm getting a little tired. I'm sure you all are too. So on the first residency, we'll decide one or the other based on the opportunities that are brought from organizations. And I'll send a little RFP out to you all in anticipation of that. Essentially, for you all, if you all want to start checking around in your worlds, essentially the criteria is that it's a multiple stakeholder groups need to come together in order to address a problem or a possibility. And it's the multiple stakeholder groups that's key. And the second is that you can get a leader, the leader, or a key leader along with 3 other people to come and be a part of the experience. It's those 2 items. And I'll send out more about it, and then you all can address that. The cool thing is in Joe's class for strategy, you all will have the same opportunity around building a strategic plan for an organization. He'll do something similar in his class as well. So it's really cool because you'll have the chance to actually take, but you'll do it a little differently, but you'll be actually using the class and applying it right back home to organizations and working together to help. So that's very cool there. So I think we are done. Do not expect to have all of this totally understood. Have it clear in your head. This is an unfolding learning experience. I want to emphasize that there's a clear syllabus around what we're doing and what the deliverables are, as well as the percentages. There's clear grading rubrics that will be explained. There is a calendar that has everything laid out in it. There is a schedule that has everything laid out in it, and you have modules when you come into here. All you have to do is click here and start step 1, 2, 3, 4, and get working on this right here, and read everything down here below here so that you're familiar with it, because I will take you through and help you understand how to do this. My biggest right now emphasis is on making sure you do a great job on the mind map. So if I encourage you on anything, please, triple please, read the instructions, review all the materials, get in here and get started on this as soon as possible. And with that, the last thing is we know that draft 1 is going to focus on the cover page through the affinity diagram. The second draft is going to focus on the cover page through the mind map. The final paper here is going to focus on the cover page all the way through the end. And right here on step 3, it's a discussion board, which is going to be after the first residency, which is your reflection on learnings and revision. There's 3 questions in there. I'm going to add 2 more that will be directly related to our experience on that weekend. So with that, how are you as you're checking out? Let's be done. It's 10:36. I've recorded this. I'm really staying this long because I want to make sure you have everything you need to get started. So I really admire and appreciate your commitment to your learning and your experience for those that are here. And know that you can always ask me questions, and I will stay on for a few minutes after I say we're done for anybody who has a need that they want to talk a little bit more about. So with that...
Hey, Steve, one final point from the group. There's been a couple of folks, maybe more than a couple, interested in, as we go forward, if we could move our, if nobody objects, move our group calls to an earlier start time.
Yeah, most people said 9 o'clock on the doodle that I sent out. It was pretty I'll show you here. So I'm wide open to that. I can send it. You want me to send another? I'll tell you what. I can send another doodle out just to check. I thought I had it here. Let's see here, right here. Okay, here it is, right here. A lot of people, really were picking this 9 o'clock as opposed to. But I'm happy to do earlier, 8:30 or 8. But you can see here. What do you recommend?
Well, I think the 8 or 8:30 is probably better. If I'm hearing it correct. Maybe we all thought we were more awake at 9, and it's gone downhill from there.
Yeah. I'm having a hard time finding words right now. So, but I'm, it's just, So, okay. This is what I'm going to do. I wish we could. I want to involved right now. Everybody in your next to your names, just say 8 or 8:30 or 9. Just next to your name, 8 or 8:30 or 9. And I know we're all tired, so we're all in this boat together. But just say that there, and then I'll take a look at that, and I'll do the time that you all want. 8, 8:30 or 9. So type next to your name 8, 8:30 or 9. Also, in addition to that, what's your takeaway from tonight, and what are you going to do if you have something like, what are you going to do as a result of tonight? So what's your takeaway, learning, perspective, reaction, and what's something you're going to do because of tonight? I'm curious about that. Rebecca, what's your takeaway from tonight? What time would you pick? What's your takeaway, and what are you going to do?
My time, I think that my Pacific Daylight Time really works in my favor in this case. Any time really works for that. So I'm open on that, and I predict that I'm going to need to have a lot of dance parties for spurring inspiration and action for homework, because that is what I do when I have to dive deep into things. So many dance parties ahead this term.
Okay. Tony?
I won't be doing dance parties, but I think mastery of the methods before, or at least a better understanding of the methods before really diving in. And 8 o'clock is what I think.
Okay. And Ray?
Yeah, just kind of one of those things. So I think we all know what we're doing. Just got to jump in. It's still that kind of just that initial push. So we got a week. So it's got to happen here the next day or two.
And remember, I don't expect you, this last thing I think is really important, I don't expect you to get the affinity diagram done right. I just want you to do it and describe it and help me understand where you are, because you might take that affinity diagram a little bit further, you know, and you still have time to do that. So I'm not expecting you to do it right, nor the mind map on the first time around, on the first 2 drafts. I'm expecting you to describe, completely kind of go through the process, be professional in what you're writing, and be thoughtful in what you're sharing with me. As long as you're doing that, you're great. It doesn't have to be right. It doesn't have to be perfect or done the way it's intended. You might be, if you're making mistakes, but you described how you did it well, I'll be happy with that. You follow?
Yeah, I think that helps. Definitely.
Okay. Yeah, that's really important, because when we get to the final paper, I'm going to talk about, I'm going to look at, did you master it? That's the 4th criteria. And the 5th is, did you do something outstanding? That's for the final draft. The first 2, I just want to make sure you've done the professional, and you've thoughtfully described it no matter what you've done. So I'll reiterate that too, and I'm going to get the recording out to everybody. And again, hey, everybody, thank you. It's late. I absolutely appreciate your commitment to the learning and our experience together. So more to come, and I'll be talking with you soon. Bye for now.